Good evening, everyone. We are currently live. Just give me one quick moment. Alexis and I are going to do some sharing before we get started, okay? Good evening, everyone that is on. We're just doing a little bit of sharing before we get started and making sure um, this video is being streamed live to the places that it's supposed to be streaming live to. Okay? So give us 1 second and we're going to go ahead and get started. But thank you in advance for tuning in to episode 6. All right. So I think that is it. Okay. As good as it's gonna get. All right. So I believe we're live on Facebook and YouTube. So I want to say welcome to Executing My Exodus with your host, which is myself, Ashley D. I'm so elated that you decide to take out time to tune in on tonight with me for episode 6. This is called Rest, Reflection, and Restoration Part 2. And we're going to be talking about when we are forced to rest. So, again, I want to say welcome. Thank you for tuning in. I know that I was on a hiatus the whole month of March, but I'm back and I'm ready to do it as the Lord has given me. So I'm so elated that you all decided to tune in tonight. So again, I have my best friend Alexis Brown. Bringing her in. There you go. I have my best friend Alexis Brown with me tonight. She did part 1 with me 2 weeks ago for my birthday. It was a birthday gift. So she decided to do part 2 with me as we talk about rest on tonight. Okay. So again, I want to welcome my best friend Alexis K Brown. She is a wife, a mother of 5. She has her starter 5 team already. She is a strong and powerful woman of God. She is the founder of the Daughters of the King Women's Ministry. She's a co-author of a book. And she's just so, like, we've been best friends since high school and been drawn to the hip, been through a lot of ups and downs, but we're still here. So I want to welcome her. Lex, anything you want to say before we get started?
Well, just good evening. Good evening, people of God. I am always excited to share space and time with any of my brothers and sisters from around the world. So y'all go ahead and drop y'all locations too, so we know where y'all from.
Exactly. So we're going to go ahead and just get started with doing a recap of episode 5. Episode 5 was called, it was Rest, Reflection, and Restoration Part 1. And we talked about what is rest. So we want to get them a recap of episode 5 before we move into part 2.
My pleasure. So we were talking about rest from 3 different points of view: physically, mentally, emotionally, and then what is spiritual, the spiritual piece of rest. And so Ashley actually used Matthew 11:28 through 30 that teaches us a little piece of this invitation that God gives us to come to rest. And with that being said, we really honed in on the fact that rest is multifaceted, that your spiritual rest takes you into a place of your devotion. Your physical rest is really learning your limitations as a person, as a human, and not um, overworking what is the body. And then that mental and emotional rest is really understanding what triggers you to do what you do and having that time to come away to deal with your emotions and your feelings, because they are as equally as important as every other facet of your life. So I'm excited tonight that we're gonna really get into now what is the benefit of rest in those areas. So I'm really excited because this is a piece of what gets me excited to talk about.
Okay, thanks. Let's sort of recap of episode 5. We talked about what is rest. So tonight we're going to talk about when we are forced to rest. Okay, so as you all know, every time I come to you all and have a discussion, it's something that the Lord has laid on my heart and or taken me through. And one of the biggest things that I have run into this year is learning how to rest. Um, those of you who know me know I wear a lot of hats and I'm stretched thin everywhere. So it's very challenging for me to rest. And if you tell me to rest, I'm telling you, what is that? I don't know what that is because I got too much to do. But this year, I was forced to rest. As I told you all in episode 5, I was forced to rest for 3 weeks. I had a bad cold, didn't have COVID, but had a bad cold and I couldn't sing, I couldn't talk, I couldn't do anything at all. So when we get to that place of we are being forced to rest, it brings us to a place where we begin to reflect. And so much of like before I even go into that, so some of the examples of us like being forced to rest comes from being sick. Mine was being sick. Most of the time when I rest, it's like I'm sick. I'm sick as a dog. I've been running hard. I've been doing this, doing that, and haven't had time to even just sleep or lay down or anything like that. So, I'm at this point forced to rest. I have to lay down. I have to get some sleep. I have to recuperate from all of the different things that I was doing. So, when we actually are forced to rest, it causes us to reflect. But before we even get into that, do you have any examples of when you're actually being forced to rest?
Well, see, I'm gonna take a spin in a gavel at a different perspective, but when you say forced to rest, it's really the will of God.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, when you say forced to rest, God doesn't make me do anything. However, because He is a good and loving Father, He oftentimes will allow those roadblocks
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
slow you down. Not
Uh-huh.
necessarily, and again, you still have to make the choice to
Mm-hmm.
stop, but he'll put roadblocks, in your way. And for me, that roadblock was when I had a house fire. The house fire itself was its own roadblock of rest, but it was coming out of that and having to physically rest my body so that in slowing down, I wouldn't further hurt myself. I ended up with a blood on my kidney, and I was pregnant at the time too. And so it came down to, okay, if you are going to be willing to heed and yield to this roadblock, which is you got to sit down and you got to kind of move away from what you're regularly doing for a season or a time in order for you not to hurt yourself worse. So that's really my example, is the slowing down piece. That sometimes things don't connect in the way that you want them to, and you like, what's going on? But that is God's force for you to just slow down, take a curve. In your case, that is also for sickness because He has to put up a whole wall in order for you to sit down. But the people of God who know, you know that already, and for those who don't, they know it now.
That is true. He has to put up a brick wall for me to slow down. But yeah, sickness, the fact of having to slow down, and then even down to trauma. Trauma will actually slow you down. So with that being said, I just thought about so many different things when I said trauma. Trauma will slow you down.
Mm-hmm.
Life situations will slow you down and require you to reflect and then get to a place of restoration. So it's several different things that will actually force you to rest. So let's talk about the reflection piece. So I know for me, I start with me. Y'all know I don't mind being humble, open, and transparent. You know, hashtag Michael Tide. He said it all the time. I don't mind being hot. So one of the things that I realized about being overwhelmed with so many different things going on in my life and getting sick and being forced to rest was it requires you to reflect, because at this point you're gonna say to yourself, you know, how did I get here? You know, what could I have done differently? You know, where I wouldn't be in this place where now I'm sick as a dog. I can't go nowhere. I can't do anything. You know, so you actually begin to reflect on how you could have done things better, how you could have moved differently, why you didn't incorporate rest. We talked about that 2 weeks ago. Why you didn't incorporate rest so you wouldn't be hitting this stumbling block with now you can't do nothing but rest. You can't do nothing but lay in the bed. You can't do nothing but lay on your couch, watch TV, kick your feet up. You have so many other things that you have to do, but you have to be there. You have to be in that space. So it most of the time it requires you or it calls you to actually reflect. So we begin to see things that we never seen before. That's one thing that I realized about the reflection piece of resting. When we rest, we begin to see things that we either turn a blind eye to
Mm-hmm.
or we were too busy to see. And sometimes we begin to play back events, situations, or moments in our lives that we never reevaluated until that moment. And that's what happened with me this year alone. As you all know, I used to work. My first accounting job was at USI Insurance Services. Great company. I gave them a little bit over 7 years, and but as you all know, I worked long hours. I will work every bit of 15 to 17 hours a day. Sun up to sundown, up as early as 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning. Don't get off to midnight because there was so much work to do. And one of the things that I realized once that job was over with, which was 12/31, 2021, it allowed me to really rest. And when I tell you I've been resting in the arms of the Lord, like seriously resting in my bed. So it has allowed me to reflect on a lot of different things that I didn't notice was happening in my life or what had happened in my life. It required me to I realized it was a lot of things that I turned a blind eye to, or I was just too busy to see. So now I'm in that place where I have slowed completely down and I'm able to see all of the things that I never seen before. And it gets you to a place where you begin to reevaluate how those things transpire, how certain things happen, whether or not you need to change those different things in your life. So the reflection piece is very important because it kind of gives you a moment to say, how can I do this all over again, or how can I start fresh from the things that I didn't do right the first time. So I'm gonna give you some room to speak on that.
No, you brought it home. One of the pieces of resting is definitely the reflection of how did I get here. But I think that second piece is also the preparation that God puts you through in order to get there. So that was my case. Talking about that fire, going right back to it. But the truth was for me is that God was putting up roadblocks earlier than just the fire itself. There was a point where I wanted to buy certain things and I wanted to invest in my business at the time. And when you're in a restful state with God, you realize, wow, this whole time He was preparing me for this moment. And that preparation piece is what you sometimes get clued into when you finally take a break from the actual situation itself. And as I sat there week after week, replaying a moment of trauma, because it really was, it reminded me and it showed me in a way what God had been doing way before I had to stop moving. We don't, we say, Lord, we want a sign. Show me a sign, Lord. I need to know. I need to know what you want me to do. But oftentimes we didn't even know what it was until we take that time to rest. And we're like, oh, that's what you were doing in all of this time. And we discount those moments. Why? Because like you said, we're running. We're here, we're there. We're not taking the opportunity to smell the roses, because if you stop on that journey for just a moment, you often can almost trace your steps back to how it went wrong or why it went right. That rest piece gives you time to see God's blueprint for the moment that you're in. Like, oh, that's what you was. All right, Lord. Okay, that's all right. But we miss those. And then we wonder, well, why can't I hear the Lord? I don't hear him. You don't hear him because you still moving. Hush. Sit down.
Get
Be
somewhere to sit down, Lord.
just shh. Because it's a still voice. It's
Uh-huh.
not it ain't calamity. Jesus ain't bamming a simple like, hey, girl. It's when you are still enough to pick
Mhm.
up on, oh, that's God. But that usually happens when we're not distracted,
Right.
which brings you into the point of what happens when we begin to piece together those blueprints. Then we start to feel this sense of transformation. You start to feel this sense of restoration. Like, ooh, okay, wait, there's some things that I need to be poured into me, and there's some things that I need to release. And you're right, the sister, you know, we hear him super clear
Mhm.
when we done sat down.
Yeah.
You said it.
Thank you, Lady McFarland. She said that I agree with you 100%. When you are rested, when you are sitting quietly, when you are just in that moment and in his presence, you can actually hear him so much clearer. Sometimes and I see a question in here that's going to lead us into the restoration portion. So let's remind me to click on that soon. But um,
Gotcha.
one of the things that we have to learn how to block out the noise. So many of us are used to the noise around us. We have this to do, we have that to do, we have to answer this person, that person, in order to get the task done. But sometimes you got to block out the noise in order to hear from God. Sometimes that means you got to turn your phone off,
Mm, not the phone.
close the laptop.
Don't do it to him.
Gotta do it. Turn the TV off.
Lord help us.
Get in
Somebody.
that prayer closet. Get in that secret place where it's just you and him in order to hear him clearly. And most of the times we have to rest in order to do that. You can't really hear him clearly when you constantly on the go and you're doing this, doing that. Sometimes it just honestly requires you to stop and say, okay, Lord, I'm in this moment at this time, waiting to hear from you. What is
Mhm.
it that you have for me in my life? What is it that you're trying to show me at this present moment that I need to do? So I can move differently, so I can operate differently, so it can be in alignment with what you have for my life. So that requires rest, it requires reflection. So are you willing to reflect on those things that have happened, whether it happened properly or it didn't? Whether it's almost a whole do over. It's like, okay, Lord, I done been through all these different things. I could have done that differently. So next time around, when this comes around, I know that I need to go this way, or I know I need to listen to you on how to operate properly in this situation.
Mhm.
So I, you're on that. So listen, before, is there anything else that you want to talk about far as the reflection piece before we go to restoration?
No, I want to get to Brother Jones because he got something to say, and I just think we should just expound because he asked such a great question.
So Elder Jones from ATL, he decided, he got up here and said, "Will resting also help us prioritize things and people in order for us to see what is actually important and what is not?" So I'm gonna let you answer that first.
Okay, so again, you didn't kind of You didn't been in our alley, but we gonna go there because you asked. Rest helps you create and make boundaries.
Mhm.
So in our minds, we don't feel like we have limitations. We really don't. Because if we really felt like we did, then we would stop moving. But because
Mhm.
we really believe that we can somehow conjure up more energy out of no rest, don't make sense. But because we think that, we oftentimes are so stretched thin
Mhm.
that you legitimately have everything pulling at you at once.
Yeah.
Only because you have not set a clear boundary on it's no way for me to do that right now because I'm doing something else.
Yeah.
And the thing that is the else is you are getting your download from God.
Uh-huh.
Your download of what's important, what fits here, what fits there, what you don't have time for, what you do have time for, that happens when you sitting down.
Mhm.
Now, for me, Ashley has mentioned that I'm a mother of five. I'm a mother of five, and all four of my children are homeschooled. So they're home with me all day long. All day long. For all of y'all who get a break from children's ministry all day because your kids go to school, that doesn't happen in my house. But mind you, me being a teacher, God calling me to homeschool my children is one priority. My marriage is a second. My ministry is a third. Church is its own. When do I have time if I'm moving and running to really prioritize specifically what needs to go first? But
Mhm.
in my quiet time, when I wake up at 5 a.m. in the morning, when nothing's moving in my house and I'm barely awake myself, that's my rest time. That's the time that I take to sit with God and go, what are we doing today? What do I have time for and what don't I? That happens when you sit with God. When they say is Jesus in everything, it's true. But
Mhm.
it's true when you prioritize God. And when you prioritize God, you got to go sit down.
Mhm.
There's no way for you to make him first when you are moving. But when
Mhm.
you take time, when you make time, there will never be a right time. Let me make that very clear. It's not going there's never going to be a right time to rest. In our minds, idle is a problem.
Mhm.
There's never a right time to rest. But if you prioritize God in your place of rest, oh, you gonna get the download. You gonna know husband needs to be taken care of on Monday. The children gonna have to wait till Thursday. Whoops, sorry, choir rehearsal. We gonna have to push that back an hour. Oh, all right, the dishes need to be done. God cares about the smallest things in our life, but we don't get the downloads when we're up and moving. So that's my take.
So you said a lot. So this is a story of your question, Elder Jones, is literally what I'm dealing with in this season, you know.
Hmm?
And Alexis can contest to that, where I am in a place where as much as I am needed in a lot of different places and the hats that I wear, I am learning how to say no and it made myself unavailable. I'm learning how to put me first in this season, outside of God, of course. Because it's imperative. It is so important to do that now. Resting does help us prioritize things and people in our lives. Yes, you when you had a habit of coming to everyone's rescue when they're in need of you, or because I know for me, Sister Ashley, can you come sing back up for me? Sister Ashley, can you do this for me? Can you do that? All these different things. And I'm just like, listen, I am tired, I am beat, and I am learning how to say no. Or just not pick up my phone. Listen, I have to do that now in order to rest, in order to take care of myself, in order to reboot, in order for me to do more. As of right now, some people trying to get in contact with me right now. And I know they're looking at this live like, oh, she got time for her live, but she ain't got time to answer my phone calls and my text message. You're absolutely right.
Oh no.
Because I'm actually doing something for me, that, gives me joy, that gives me so much peace, that gives me a lot of energy where it's not. And one of the things that I learned, especially about me doing my webcast ministry now, is that I have more people that don't like me now than I did before I had this,
Oh
because
Lord.
I decided to do something that God called me to do that was about me, that actually me walking into my calling, and it no longer serves them. And so they're a little salty about it. And you know what? It's okay. They'll be all right.
They
Put
be
no salt on your French fries and keep on going. Cause I have to start doing for me now. I have to start taking care of Ashley. I have to start doing the things that God has called me to do. And right now, I have people know me to help with their different ministry projects, their different visions. I have no problem. That's one thing. I am one person that has always worked behind the scenes to help people move forward and fulfill whatever their vision is. This year was about me fulfilling what God had given me. And so I am learning how to prioritize things in my life and people in my life. Not saying I don't love them, I don't want to help them, I don't respect them, but I'm learning how to take care of Ashley this year. I'm learning how to walk into the things that God has called me to do. So does resting help you prioritize things and people in order for you to see what is actually important and what is not? Yes, it does.
Yep.
And I'm so grateful for it. It is teaching me to have boundaries, reinforce boundaries. It's teaching me how to just really spend a long time with God. It's teaching me how to just say no, like not to make yourself so accessible and available to everybody, because you still have to take care of yourself.
Jesus did it. Jesus went away. I told y'all, I think what was it, the last episode when Jesus stopped the healing line. It, listen, I don't think we realize how monumental that was in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
That he just stopped a whole healing line, like, okay, we're done for right now. And not in a selfish way, but that at the end of the day, my calling is to preach. And while I'm healing, which is good,
Mm-hmm.
I got to get back on track to what it is that I've come to do.
Mm-hmm.
That happens with us because the world often is pulling at us. You're an employee, you're a church administrator, you're a mommy, you're single, you're a sister, you're an aunt. And all of these things are pulling from each side because God created us to be in fellowship with each other.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't keep an eye on your purpose,
Mm-hmm.
and that happens again when you're rested, when God says, hold up, slow down. You're doing so good. You've got good stuff going on. But I need you to refocus.
Mm-hmm.
Refocusing happens when we've sometimes gotten sick, sometimes when we are at the limitation of I can't do no more. When we get to those moments, and that's that fourth piece, that when do we as a church and as a people stop needing God to put a brick wall in our way? When do we get to a point where
That's
we are
good.
so inclined to hear God and we are so anxious to know, okay, Lord, what's the next turn that we stop
Mm-hmm.
before we even make another decision? When do we get to that place in our Christian maturity?
That's good. I'm gonna cash app you. Go ahead.
Stop it. Absolutely stop it.
That's
But I'm
good.
speaking to myself. You know why? You know, with the word, you get a word, usually it's for you first. And that's the truth. Is that with being the many things that God has called me to be, He is calling me also to check in at every turn.
Yep.
That requires my mind, it requires my physical rest, it requires my spiritual rest. It
Mm-hmm.
requires of me. Rest is not just doing nothing, it requires of you some
Yep.
intention. But let me stop because I'm
No, you listen, sis up here, my sister Samantha up here say, y'all speaking today, you on the road. So listen, you got more or you gonna tag me in because I listen,
Tag
when
it in, sister. Tag it in. You tag in. Let's talk about this restoring piece of
listen,
rest.
listen, this restoring piece of rest, you when after you have rested or you in the space of resting and reflecting, there comes restoration and transformation. We begin to allow God to restore us from an empty or broken place from the effects of reflection.
Mm,
We begin to ask Him to heal us where we are broken and or to shift our minds in the areas of our lives where we are lost and confused. All a part of executing our exodus.
ah,
Okay,
all right.
listen, all a part of that. Because it's so much I want to say. Alexis, you said so much. You hit so much dead on the head. Listen, this whole reflection. mm, When I tell you the space of reflection really allows you to identify some deeply rooted issues, problems, struggles that you didn't know
Mm,
you were dealing with.
yeah.
It allows you to bring those things out, bring light to those things, and say, okay, it's time to revamp. It's time to redo. It's time, Lord, I need you to help me. It's time for me to sit at your feet and ask for direction. It's time for me to sit here and say, okay, Lord, I need your help because there's no way I can do what I did the last 5 years. I can't do that again. I can't lose time. I can't continue to make mistakes. I can't continue to do the same things that I was doing. I need things to be done differently.
Mm,
So I'm sitting at your feet looking for you to give me a word, give me direction, give me a pathway. Like, show me something to let me know where I need to go, how I need to move, where I'm walking in alignment with what you have for my life. And like you said, Alexis, the biggest thing that you said was, when are we going to get to the point where we can sit at his feet and just humbly wait?
mm,
But
mm,
oftentimes we're unable to do that because we're so anxious to move forward.
mm,
We're so anxious for things to, it. I got to move to the next piece. I got to move to this. I got this to do. I got that. What's wrong with waiting? What's wrong with having patience? Sometimes the Lord just don't say anything, because He just really want to see if you're gonna wait and come and ask Him about it. So when are we gonna be mature enough? That's
mm.
the word to use. Mature enough to actually wait in the reflection phase, in order for him to
That's
do
age old. We learn to wait and be patient when you're children. It's interesting to me that as we get older, as we move through the Christian faith, how much we abandon patience because I'm grown. So I don't got to wait no more. If
hmm
you a child of God, then you going to have to discipline yourself to wait. And resting is often a place of waiting.
People don't like to wait no more. Alexis, they got things to do. They ready to move to the next stage. They got goals to meet.
I'll sleep when I'm dead.
Right.
That's the age.
Listen, I used to say it all the time. I used to say it to Alexis all the time. I sleep when I'm dead, girl. I got too much stuff. I got goals. I got things I need to do. This, and that, and the third. Yada yada yada. No. Sometimes you just literally have to wait. And like Elder John said, reflection reminds us who God is,
Mm-hmm.
how great He is. Like how like even when you begin to reflect on some of the things that you've been through, that you may or may not realize like the impact it has had on your life, you begin to really see how the Lord has covered you, how He's protected you from some things in order for you to move forward. So reflection, it not only identifies the things the things that we either turn a blind eye to or too busy to see, but it also shows how mighty his hand is, how great he is. And which leads us into the whole restoration. When do we get to the place of we want to be restored? We want to be filled. We want him to feel or mend the broken pieces, remold, reshape us. He is the potter, we are the clay. So when do we get to the place of we ready for that restoration piece? And I really feel like after we have taken out the time to reflect and really, one of the things I'm gonna say this because I know we need to move forward. Then we need to close this out. One of the things that I learned about the reflection piece is it really shows who you are behind the mask.
Mm? Oh, you uncovered. Oh, now you're uncovered.
You're uncovered, very
Mm.
uncovered. And some of us don't like that. We don't like for people to see the layers. I really talk about that real heavy in almost every webcast because I'm at that place in my life where I have no problem being open and transparent about who I am, what I've been through, and not everybody like it, but it's who I am. It's where I have freedom. When you're able to talk about all the things that, like, even when you real ugly behind those layers and you realize that you acted like a total fool and there were some things you could have done differently. When
Me.
you're able to identify that in the reflection stage, do you know what your restoration could look like?
See, you hopped up on the reflection because, see, this is the season. We are not only speaking about what it is that we're learning, but we're still in the cuspice of it too.
Mm-hmm.
So, where Ashley leans heavy on reflection, it's the season she's been in. And
Mm-hmm.
for me, I lean so heavy on those boundaries of rest and why that's important because that's what I'm doing in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what we both have in common with wherever we are in dealing with the rest that we need is that we're realizing that it's changing who we are.
Yeah.
And it's changing who we are in ways that we did not expect would come out of resting, not necessarily cultivating.
Mm-hmm.
We often think that the most that we're going to change and be transformed is happening when we're moving or doing something or putting our time and energy into this. But oftentimes, some of the greatest transformation happens when we're still.
Yeah.
Your surgery, that process of fixing that leg or fixing that arm or the kidney or whatever they're operating on, you come out better because you were in a state of not moving.
That's good. That's it.
Our rest is often God's operation table because it's the one time where those times, and thank God it shouldn't be one time, but in those moments, you stop for repair. Like race cars on a track, eventually you have to stop for repair. And when you stop for repair, what do they see? The busted tires, the window, it's everything all at once. And it is uncomfortable, Samantha, because you don't want to expose that
Uh,
much of
uh,
self when
uh.
you sit with yourself.
Listen, real quick. Hold on, let something you going. Listen, the Lord can't fix or repair who you pretend to be.
Oh, that's Ashley's favorite line.
That is, listen, he cannot fix or repair who you pretend to be.
Indeed.
So, like my sis said, Samantha said, it is uncomfortable because it does peel back the layers that we thought we were healed from. But at some point, when are you going to peel back those layers? I'm sorry, I'm stuck on reflection. I know we need to be in restoration. I'm stuck on reflection. When you going to peel back the layers? When you going to be honest enough and say, Lord, this is what I'm dealing with. These are the issues that I'm having. These are the struggles that I have. I know I didn't do everything right and I need your help. When are you going to be man or woman enough to say, I'm a mess. And
So then you can fix me, Jesus.
he just wants you to come to him as you are. But when are you going to be honest with yourself?
Yep.
and say these are the issues and the struggles and the internal things that I'm dealing with. When are you going to do that? But oftentimes we're too afraid. We're uncomfortable. Like Sis said, we're uncomfortable because it requires us to be vulnerable.
Yep.
And the Lord is one person that you could be vulnerable with if you can't be vulnerable with anybody else.
Just Jesus.
It's just him. Like, it's him. And okay, Lady McFarland said that's right. We have to be honest with God, period. Own up to your issues. Exactly. Exactly. Own up to it. Y'all on the road tonight. Elder Jones said the first step is acknowledgement, but that is the hardest step. It is the hardest step.
And you can't acknowledge nothing when you moving. You ever notice when you be bopping in a room and you got to be social? And I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it's a crowded room. So where you would usually even acknowledge your best friend, hey girl, you got to do like this and keep going.
Uh-huh.
That's our life with God, usually when we don't implement rest physically, mentally, emotionally, and we don't allow for that reflection period. We don't put those boundaries up. Guess what? We doing like this to Jesus from the sea of things that we got going on. We go, hey, Jesus, all right, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's a download that you need over there.
Exactly.
The healing happens. It does. It happens faster
Yes.
when you acknowledge that this I'm weak right here. That's rest. I can't do this on my own strength. I'm limited.
Come on, sis. If y'all want to preach, just say that. Sam said
Listen,
you have
let
to
me
be
just
accountable for what
let me
you have
tell
said.
somebody else.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Accountable. And listen, this is what I always say too, that you need an accountability partner. Now I tell you right now, Alexis is my accountability partner. she she been my best friend all these years. Listen, if I'm struggling, if I'm going through it, I'm like, Lex, I got confessions, or Lex, I need to I need to let you know what's going on. You know,
Time out. That's the time out. Time out.
time
What
out,
do we do? Usually we
time out.
go straight. I don't like this, but I'm gonna go on into it anyway. Nope. Time out.
Mhm.
Flag on the play. Go find a Christian friend, godly community. Find somebody. Jesus.
Mhm.
Come on.
Exactly. Exactly. So, you sometimes you need that accountability partner that's gonna speak life into you and say, you ain't supposed to do that. Alexis is my friend for that. And I tell her most of the time we know we ain't got no business doing this stuff. But
Mhm.
we just need our accountability partners just to like reiterate, like, okay, so what I always say to you, Alexis, I always say, crap. It'd be like disclaimer. Okay, this is my disclaimer. So Lex,
Or we'll
okay,
say, this is how my flesh is feeling right now. And I know that ain't spiritual, but this what it is. It's that. That's a timeout piece. That's a rest piece. It's practical. What
mhm,
Ashley is bringing to this whole webcast, these 2 episodes, is I pray what's coming through is just how practical rest really is.
mhm,
It is that piece of delegation. It is that piece of boundaries. It is that piece of investing maybe in a planner so that you plan for rest. It is
mhm,
giving God your first. It is rebuking the I'ma just sleep when I'm dead mentality. It's practical. That rest is not some pie in the sky. Oh, I don't even know why we need that. But that it's supposed to be inserted in our everyday living.
mhm,
And if it's inserted in those places, then you're going to be transformed. The way you do things will keep shifting and changing for the better. You're going to be full in areas where you didn't think you could be full.
mhm.
Just my piece. But go on, wrap up your stuff, dear.
No, I mean, this is good. I appreciate y'all chiming in. I'm here for it all. Listen, you have to rest. You have to reflect and then allow God to do the restoration and transformation. And it doesn't stop. One of the things that some seasoned saints think that once they get past a certain point, none of this applies to them. They feel like they got it all figured out. No. We're all, it doesn't matter how long you've been in ministry, doesn't matter how long you've been serving, we all go through these different moments where we have to be reminded that we need to rest, we need to reflect, and we need to allow God to do the restoration, transformation in our lives. Um, because it's important. That's the only way we're going to survive. That's the only way we're going to be able to have the strength and the energy to keep going and do the things that we actually want to do. And also just do the things that He has for our lives. So rest, reflect. Reflect is a big thing for me. Uh, and then restoration, transformation. It's important in order to survive these last and evil days. So if I don't tell you anything else tonight, rest, reflect, and restore because it's important. It One of the things that I'm learning now in this season is that I'm when I tell you, I told you guys like 2 weeks ago, when I tell you I am resting, I am resting. When I don't want to be bothered, I don't allow anybody to bother me. I don't, because I need that time to rest, to meditate on the things that He gives me. And like a lot of the times, even with doing these topics and webcasts, now when I did this, Alexis would tell you, she kind of challenged me to see if I really was ready for this. And it was to a place where she was like, Ashley, if you can write a page of topics that you want to discuss, maybe this is something you should do. This is something you should do. You right, Bishop. You need a whole vacation. He said I need to schedule a vacation and do.
Most certainly, the clergy among them all, those who serve, you got to go away, because if not, someone will find you to serve them. I promise you.
But Bishop, I told you that anyway. Sometimes
they cold time, and when we do it as ministry leaders and things of that nature, we honestly propel others to do it.
Yes.
And to go, oop, hold on. Bishop said he ain't. Oh, okay. Well, maybe I need to take my own rest. It works the same way.
Elder said it, rest and causing us to reset and recharge. It will prepare us for the next assignment. Bishop, I told you that when I came down to Atlanta. You was trying to get me to sing. You was like, you should have got me to sing. I was like, nah, I'm rested. This is me rested. I'm okay. Why? Because I'm understanding that I need to rest, reflect, in order to allow God to restore. So listen, rest, reflect, and allow Him to restore you and even transform. Because there may be some things that you were originally doing that may not be in alignment with His will. And you have to be okay and be receptive to that transformation. See, Bishop, you got your members up here telling you need to go on a vacation. That's 3. That was me. That's Elder Jones and my sister Sam. So, Bishop, we need to go ahead and play that vacation.
One for the Son, the Father, and the Holy Ghost.
That's 3 right there, Doc. You need to go ahead.
It is finished.
No, you need to go ahead and do that. But we just want to encourage you all on tonight. We hope we didn't take up a lot of your time.
Oh, we certainly did, but you were resting while you were doing it. So but rest 48 minutes on tonight. You did indeed do that.
Exactly. So we just want to encourage you to rest, reflect, restore. That's the only way you're going to be able to last. Like I said, resting has allowed me to really reflect and get energy that I never had before. I didn't realize how tired I was until I got into this year. And which is why I've rested so hard, even being forced to rest a bit because of sickness. I learned how to rest. And in the process of resting, I have been reflecting on everything. Lord, what is it that I can do differently? And even in the moments of the reflection, like you said earlier, Alexis, it allows God to speak to you and give you those spiritual downloads. That's what happens to me with these segments. There are moments where I'm literally just sitting there and He gives me a spiritual download on this is what I want you to say on the next one. Now, mind you, like I said, Alexis challenged me to see if this is something that I really could do. Alexis, what I do. In that same day, I sent you pictures of like 5 or 6 different pages of topics that I wanted to discuss. Mind you, the topics that I've talked about in a matter of months has not even on the list. Why? Because I'm listening to the spiritual download He's giving me
Mm-hmm.
in order to share with you all. Sometimes too, you have to realize things don't go as planned, and you have to be okay with that. But it's the plan of God that you need to follow, and not the plan of your own. And then, have you ever realized that maybe the plans you originally had, it really, you didn't profit from it. Not for real.
Man orders your steps, but it's actually, we be making plans. The Bible says y'all be making the plans, but the Lord be really ordering what's really gonna go down. There you go.
Mhm.
If you just rest, you could just walk on His feet. Just it's right there, the blueprint over there.
Let Him carry you. He has the capacity to do it. So listen, rest, reflect, and restore. Anything else, Lex, that you want to say before we close out?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
Okay, so I want to say thank you all for tuning in to episode 6. So excited for Rest, Reflection, and Restoration Part 2 when we are forced to rest. Again, I want to say thank you so much. I hope something was said that encouraged you on tonight to rest, reflect, and restore. And before we even leave, let's dismiss in prayer. So, God, I thank you for another opportunity to be before your people. God, I thank you for allowing us to discuss rest, reflection, and restoration. And God, I ask that anything that was said, that something was said to prick someone's heart, their mind, and their spirit, where they are able to incorporate those different things that we discussed tonight. God, I ask that you continue to cover us and keep us, oh God, that we will be in alignment with your will and your will only. That it's not about what we think or what we want to do, but it's all about you, where you would be glorified and edified, oh God. So, God, I ask that everyone that's under the sound of my voice, that you bless them, you keep them, you protect them, and God, that you would even give them the space to rest. Give them the space to reflect. And God, even in the reflection phase, oh God, allow them to peel back those layers, oh God, that they're able to identify and own up to some of the things that they may not have done right, but they will be able to identify them and look to you for the answer. Look to you for the restoration. Look to you for the transformation in their lives, oh God. So, God, we say thank you. We give you glory. We give you honor and praise in Jesus' name. Amen. Again, I thank you all so much for tuning in with us tonight. Thank you to my best friend Alexis for doing this with me yet again. This won't be her last time. She'll be back on soon. She don't even know it yet, but she gonna do it. Anyways, but again, we want to say thank you. Thank you for tuning in. We love you, and there's nothing you can do about it. God bless you.